Hi, I'm Jake Deffinbaugh, and welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, a podcast where me and my friends talk about nostalgic moments and pop culture from our childhoods. We interview people such as actors, producers, composers, puppeteers, and more. We'll be sharing our favorite memories, talk about behind-the-scenes moments, and so much more. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh, and welcome to this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. I'm your host, Jake, and our co-hosts, Chris Bixby and Wyatt McCullough. How are you guys?
Good.
Very awesome. Good. So let's talk about like a minute with our last guest.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yes, of what she was. Okay. I'm gonna say this. Start off about her for the last episode. Wendy Callio, who played Nina on Imagination Movers. She's a great person. We have so much fun for talking to her and everything what she has done. Since she mentioned this, I can say this that very soon she'll be back on being an actor. So we're really excited for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's an announcement for me. I now have Twitter, everybody.
Yep.
Oh yeah. If you guys want to follow Wyatt, you can
be in the description.
Yep, on Twitter in the description. And same as ours. And every single you guys should know what it is every single episode. So I don't need to mention much things at all. Anyway, so this guest we have this episode, he is an actor that, from my childhood, that he voiced one of the kids of OG Clifford Show. We're not talking about the reboot. We talk about the OG Clifford Show, which is named Charlie, and he's a person who did the voice. And also, Chris, what do you also do?
So for me, because I grew up watching Disney Channel like all the time, he played the character Nelson on the second season of Even Stevens. It was also on other shows like Rocket Power, Fairly OddParents, ton of great stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad that we talk about this a little later on because and we can talk about what the show was and what he's a part of.
And a certain Fairly OddParents.
Oh yeah, that too. Anyways, here he is. His name is Gary Gray. How are you, Gary?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. How are you?
We're good. We're great.
Thanks for asking.
Good. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
You're welcome.
12th guest.
Yeah, 12th guest.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
We haven't actually no, it's just kidding.
So much.
Well, I appreciate it either way, no matter what the number.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
yeah, no matter what.
Well, thank you so much with the support. So we appreciate that, and same as for Chris and Wyatt also. Anyways, let's start off with a simple question here. How do you start that you want to pursue career like being an actor, for example?
Well, I was very I guess you could say advanced for my age at the wee age of 2 years old. I was talking, reading, writing, just everything, and driving my parents crazy. And it got to the point where they were just like, we have to do something. Like, he has to be into something because he's just driving us nuts in the house. And I eventually got put into print modeling. And I'm from Chicago, and in Chicago at the time, in the late 80s, print modeling was very, very big. It was really huge. So it got to the point where I got sort of noticed in the print game there, and from there graduated from print modeling to actual runway modeling. And I was a student of a charm school out there in Chicago that's now closed, but it was a really sort of big charm school back then that produced a lot of models out of Chicago. And so it was really that turning point that sort of set the acting bug. So on the runway, it's a little bit more, obviously showy than on print. And I was actually at a show in New York for, I believe it was Tommy Hilfiger or Guess. I think it was actually a Tommy Hilfiger show. And one of the producers of the fashion show was also a producer for the Cosby Show. And that was my first job. And
oh, wow.
That was
awesome.
That was literally
awesome.
it. They plucked me right from there. And I started at 3.5 and been acting ever since.
Nice.
Yep.
Very awesome.
And then you later went on to do Charlie and
Yeah. I mean, that was, I had done those, I believe Charlie was my second or third voice, and I was around 11 years old, 11, 12, somewhere in there. And yeah, AJ being also in there around that same age. I started them around the same time, but I was doing more Clifford, and then I think right after Clifford ended, that's when Fairly OddParents really picked up, and I did that for 16 years. So
Wow.
Yeah, you did the voices for the video game. I remember playing Breaking the Rules on the GameCube.
yeah, that was such a good game. I got that.
It is such a good game.
They sent it to me, and I had a GameCube. I was so excited. I was like, that was one of the first times I had, seen myself in a video game. And I'm a gamer since birth, I feel. And so it was for me, that sort of meshing of passions, where you have this part of you that you love to do and you love to act, but you also love to play video games, and then having those worlds meet is really cool. So that wasn't my last one, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah. So how did you? Oh, go ahead, Jake.
Of course, I'm Chris.
Oh wait, apparently I'm not.
So
Wyatt there.
So how did you get the role of Nelson for Even Stevens?
Yeah,
it was funny because I had done a Disney workshop, and out here in LA, sometimes the big networks will hold sort of a eyes only workshop for their inline producers and directors and writers. And it's basically like a hodgepodge of, actors, up and coming actors, and writers, and they put them all together. They write, some scripts and stuff, and they do skits, and they have the producers sort of sign off and say, oh, maybe this is, something that could be a good show idea. And obviously they take the actors that are from, those workshops and really sort of get that going. So yeah, I was doing a workshop, and Even Stevens was already going, and they sort of plucked me from that.
That's awesome.
And they also did a movie.
Yes. Oh yeah, the movie. Yes, the movie was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite Even Stevens episodes is the musical episode. What was that like, doing the musical episode?
The musical episode was actually insane. We rehearsed for so long, and it was like one of those things where it was like, man, when it comes down to the dance stuff, I was totally there. I was, been a dancer for practically all my life as well, but I was not used to the singing. So it was definitely a huge thing. But it was so funny because with the recording of all of that, I like pitched my voice weird and stuff. So it came out really hilarious in the musical, but that was really cool. It was a really fun time.
Yeah. And I know Christy did like a new, kind of like a newer version of like We Went to the Moon on her.
Yeah, it's on her channel.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I definitely heard about it. Everybody was like tagging me and everything, but I haven't watched it yet. I have to.
Yeah, it's
pretty good.
Yeah,
that was like probably my favorite song too. I think out of the group, it was just so catchy.
Yeah.
So since Chris been like asking questions about the character you're a part of or your thoughts of that, I can do the same thing too. So what was your experience for being AJ for Fairly OddParents and Charlie for Clifford?
And Squid for Rocket Power Dookie.
Wow. Well, Charlie for Clifford was a really cool experience. I loved Clifford. It's unique in the means that most voiceover projects, you don't really record with the whole cast typically, especially if there's a large cast. And Clifford was still to date the only voiceover project that I had the entire cast of each episode in the booth at all times, and we recorded in this huge, almost like this when you see the behind the scenes of like the soundtracks and scores being made to films, and they are in that big orchestra room. Like we recorded in one of those, and it was just literally the whole cast like lined up in a semicircle, and it was the most insane setup for voiceover that I've had. But it was such a crazy energy to have every single person there at one time. So that was really cool just to be there. And I was also the youngest cast member by far, by 20 years. And so to be there, and with legends like John Ritter and Kel Mitchell and Gray Delisle and just voiceover giants, Kevin Michael Richardson. I mean, it was just insane. So it was a really great time. Rocket Power was great. It was my first voiceover ever. Sam was my first character that I ever dreamt of, thought of. It will always hold a special place in my heart. And it was really cool to actually be voicing a character of children with other children, because that's also rare in voiceover. You usually have a lot of adults who are playing way younger. So, you know, the cast of Rocket Power that were kids, we were actually kids. And so that was really cool to be there. And Rocket Power was also special because I actually had previously worked with the person who voiced Otto, Joseph Ashton, and we had done a film together. So to, you know, sort of do the film and then come right off of the film and then, you know, lead the show together was also insane. It was really cool. Yeah, and then Fairly OddParents. I mean, there's nothing you can say about working somewhere for 16 years. You know, it's you know, right. I think it speaks for itself in the fact that it's lasted that long, the fact that you've had so many amazing people work on it and through it, and yeah, it's just probably the single most the best voiceover experience I've had, just in working with people and stretching myself as a voiceover actor and learning from people. That show also features amazing giants, you know, Carlos off of Reno 911 fame, who plays Mr. Crocker, and Gray, Gray Delisle again, Tara Strong, obviously. You know, it's just to be a person that's, you know, admittedly not the normal person you'd see in voiceover. You know, I'm not only young, but I'm a male, I'm Black, you know, and it's like to have all of those things and to be able to sit in that space and learn and grow is just it's been a great time. So yeah, I can't complain.
Butch Hartman and Darren
Oh
Norris.
yeah, Butch. You know, I met Butch when I was 12 years old, and you know, and I will always commend Butch because I took over the role, you know, for someone for AJ, and you know, to have a kid come in and to really explain to him, you know, what you needed, and he really sort of ushered, you know, me through things and allowed me to be a kid, but also, you know, make sure that I was growing, you know, as a professional, you know, and taught me so many things about just even just animation, you know, in general. You know, me now producing, you know, animation and, you know, making sure that I'm doing the same things and following the same paths as, you know, the greats has been awesome. So I
can imagine all the times you guys had to stalk Darren. That's how funny he is, aka Cosmo.
Oh, he's insane. He's
he's
insane. I mean, most of the time with Fairly OddParents, I mean, if you can imagine, like I said, with Clifford, you have the whole cast in there recording every episode. It took us maybe 3 hours each episode. And with Fairly OddParents, you had only like 4 people in there at a time, but it still took us about 3 hours each episode because between Butch, you know, being a nutcase, and between, you know, Tara cracking jokes at him, and you know, me and Darren going at each other and, you know, laughing and making fart noises, and Gray rolling her eyes at us. It was chaos every single time. And like, that's what I mean by just to imagine, you know, working at a place where the environment, you know, a kid, you know, like I said, I was started at 12, and for me to basically go through, you know, high school and college, you know, working on that show, it's so weird to, you know, the normal jobs, you know, a kid would hold. And I also had those while going to, you know, every week to, you know, to Nickelodeon Studios every Thursday and recording with this, you know, awesome cast. So yeah, like I said, I had a fire life, and I can't be mad at it.
I can imagine, because the Fairly OddParents show started off as 3 shorts, I remember right, and then it came to a series.
Yeah. I mean, Butch grew that out of nothing. Like he had initially really pitched that as, you know, something that was very small for Nickelodeon, and it just grew to be such a staple in their, like, you know,
one of the biggest shows on there.
Yeah, I mean,
it was in cartoons, and then Chalkson was also in that.
Yeah. So I have to say this, but we talk about so much, but well, not just like shows in general that we talk about, but for Clifford itself, like they give so much respect to John and we're up there, because we've gone to the show. We remember him.
And you know, everything that you hear about him is true. You know, he was the sweetest guy. You know, never had an issue working. You know, you never have a stressful condition, and in voiceover, it's not really such a stressful environment. It's way less stressful than being on camera, that's for sure. Usually my voiceover stuff is way more laid back, but at the same time, you know, we're all actors, we're all professionals. There's, you know, bound to be times where, you know, we might not be having a good day, and John was never someone that I saw show that. And yeah, he was the sweetest guy, and a really, really great actor, you know, on top of all of that. And you know, I mean, it's crazy that you feel like when you listen to Clifford, that OG Clifford, it's like it's a weird, you know, and no disrespect to the person who voices Clifford now, but it's one of those things like John Ritter had such a lock on the feel of that voice, and I think growing up and watching it while I was on it, it was one of those things where it's like, man, you know, that's the voice that you think of when you see this drawing of this dog, you know. It's like, it's like, man, that fits.
And it's
that
still going on to this day.
Feels like a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Do you have any thoughts about like the reboot, if you heard about that?
The one that the animated show that's on, or the film?
Yes.
The show, yeah. I mean, the show, you know, I've definitely seen a couple of episodes, and, you know, just in background, and I like I said, I love it. I think it's for a new generation. It's one of those things that we have to kind of remind ourselves that it's not for us, you know, even though we may have started with this property, we may be looking for something in it that we're tying to, you know, years and years prior, and there's completely new people that are watching this, and I think for that, and for the generation that is watching it, it fits. It's perfect. I think the film has had that weird sort of shadow over it with delays, and, you know, who's who, and should they do a live action, and, you know, all the talk around it. So it's unfortunate that you have that sort of stigma, but I think, yeah, you know, everybody should give those kinds of things a chance. You know, all reboots aren't bad, and everything needs to have its own time, you know, and just its own audience and all of that kind of thing. So yeah,
and because Clifford is a kids show, so it's, you know, right.
There's two specials I want to talk about, Fairly OddParents, and I know somebody out there wants to know. Hold on. How did you like the movie and episode Channel Chasers, which was where they went into TV?
Wait, say that again.
How did you like doing the episode of movie Channel Chasers?
Oh, yeah. Movie Channel Chasers was cool. I remember like coming into it and like Butch like explaining the whole thing. And I mean, Butch was one of those people who I feel like sometimes explained the ideas because he felt like they were insane. And it's like, no, we're sitting here and we're like, no, this is cool. What are you talking about? So it's funny. I have so many episodes that, you know, you sit there and you look back and you see how, like, not influential, but just how ahead of the time they were as far as just concept and just coolness. And you look at, you know, episodes of television with cartoons and stuff like, I mean, even another show that Butch worked on, Danny Phantom, and you see concepts trickle down,
that's another great
you know,
show,
and you see the influence, and you're like, definitely. Man, like Fairly OddParents was really on it with stuff like that. You know, it's just one of those iconic episodes. Very much even like the crossover episode with Jimmy Neutron, you know.
Yes,
that's another thing we were going to bring up, though.
Yeah,
crossover with Jimmy Neutron was awesome.
There wasn't really many shows doing stuff like that back then. You know, it was really unheard of. So I think that, Butch, like I said, it was just one of those guys who just mad scientists, like, you know, and just really pay it off.
Yeah. And there was a deleted song in Channel Chasers too, which I don't think fans know about, but they do because Bush put it on his channel.
There was a song, you said?
Yeah, there was like
a deleted song called "If I Was Into Me," and Tara sang it.
Wow.
It's on Bush's channel.
Nice. I have to watch it now.
Thank you so much for that, Wyatt, for him watching after this.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna go watch that now.
Hey, Jeff Stelkman did the same thing. We told him about Make a Pop. He watched it.
Sweet.
So, do you have a favorite episode that you're part of shows that you've been talking about, like Clifford, Fairly OddParents, and everything? Do you have a favorite episode that you're part of?
Well, Fairly Odd. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Neutron. I mean, just the experience. It was a big deal. You know, we got, you know, sort of clued in on it, you know, weeks and weeks before. So we knew that it was going to be, you know, a big deal. And having the cast of Jimmy Neutron in the booth with us, you know, was just really cool, you know, and just having that sort of mesh. And then finally sort of, they like added more mics, you know, that was a time, you know, where it was like, okay, now we have more than 4 people in here at a time. And even that was just really cool. And like I said, we were a particularly, you know, energetic group, to put it mildly. So, you know, having another cast that probably has their own inside jokes and their own, you know, craziness when they record, sort of mesh their sort of lives with us for that moment was really cool.
Especially Jeffrey Garcia.
Yeah.
Who I hope we hope to have on the show in the future.
Yeah.
That would be cool. That would definitely be cool. Yeah, I think that Rocket Power, man, I don't know. Rocket Power was cool. Like I said, Squid holds a special place in my heart because I feel like he really represented me, the sort of nerd that's into athletics and like kind of like sort of always like gets people looking at him like, should I pick this guy? I don't think so, but it's actually kind of decent. Like, you know, I can hold my own, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's weird, you know, I really sort of, every episode was such a journey. And then also being the age practically of the character, you know, it really spoke, you know, to me that at the time with Fairly OddParents, yeah, I started AJ around the same age, but as I grew older, obviously, you know, I'm older and I'm voicing a child, you know, whereas with Rocket Power, I was a kid voicing a kid, you know, at all times. It felt like we grew in school together, you know, so every episode really of Rocket Power was just memorable and exciting. And like I said, recording with my friends every day, you know, these are people that as kids, you know, you work with someone 2 days out of the week. I mean, that's your best friend practically, you know. So you know, no matter whether you're going to school or not, so we all were just very, very close. And yeah, and it was a really good time. And Clifford, man, I remember actually a special episode with Clifford. It was actually an episode that had really nothing to do with Clifford. And I know that sounds bad, but we were recording in a space in Burbank, and in this space they had sort of multiple recording studios there. And at this particular episode, I walked out and did my part, and our next booth over was recording Metal Gear Solid. And David Hayter walked out, and again, I'm a gamer, so I was just like, and you know, like literally the voice of Solid Snake is right there in front of me, and so I freaked out. And just, it was one of those things like, man, if I hadn't have been an actor on Clifford, I never would have, you know, crossed paths with this person. And then to work with him later on, you know, was insane. You know, I won the National Screenwriters Championship when I was 16 out here in LA. And one of the prizes was to be mentored by a working screenwriter, and he was my mentor. So for a little while. So yeah, it was just, you know, just a crazy series of events. So that's always something I'm gonna remember about Clifford that day. But yeah,
there was a show that you guest starred that we didn't bring up yet, but you guest starred an episode of Samurai Jack. How was that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had a feeling I would definitely, man, Samurai Jack was so cool. Because
first laugh.
I only did like a couple of lines, but I was so geeked. I was so excited.
It's
like,
still going on, I believe.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't care what I'm doing. Like, I'm just gonna be able to say I worked on it. Yeah, I mean, I did a couple of lines, and I was alone in the booth. Unfortunately, didn't record with the cast. But again, it's just really cool to be able to say that I was still a part of such iconic shows, and you know, and no matter what capacity, it's just really cool to be like, yeah, you know, Samurai Jack had a part of that. You know, so with the evil, with the pigs and stuff, like, it's like, man, whenever you saw evil pigs in those episodes, that was me. Yeah, it's cool.
And it's still going on.
Yeah, they definitely rerun the episodes quite a bit.
Yeah, they rebooted it, I believe.
I think most of
they did
definitely
like
for the
reboots.
parents.
Yeah. So what about Even Stevens? Like, what are some of your other favorites? Of course, like the musical, but
musical episode definitely sticks out for sure. I really did like the episode where I got stuffed in the locker.
Oh yeah,
it was really cool because that just like having that whole, you know, scene and everything, and just being able to play that bit of comedy, you know, as an actor, you always want to, you know, have scenes that come about that people remember. You know, you think about stuff like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, even just off the top of my head, you know, there's so many things, or Breakfast Club, or, you know, Risky Business, Tom Cruise having that iconic slide across the screen. Like, no one's ever going to be able to top that when it comes to just that moment. It's always going to be duplicated and imitated. It's not going to be redone. That's an insane thing. And to, you know, just to have that, or like, even actually, you know what, I totally forgot. Rocket Power, sand in the potato salad. How can I forget? But like stuff like that, you know, it's just really cool to be a part of. But yeah, Even Stevens, the musical episode and that locker bit, you know, just being able to play that bit of comedy and people be like, oh my gosh, I remember when you got stuck there. And if you remember, there was a point where like my arm was like kind of like back behind my head.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that Yeah, it was like a wedgie episode, I believe.
Yeah.
And that actually was not in the script. That was written in because at the time, can't do it anymore because you get old. But at the time, I had gotten in a fight in school, and I had dislocated my shoulder. And weird thing was that the way that it healed is where like I could sort of pop it out like at any time, and it didn't hurt. Like the ligament that like controlled the pain was just gone. So I was just like able to kind of throw it behind my head and do all sorts of things with it. So on set one day, me and Shia are like trying to like spook all the extras. Our school room was right next to extras holding. So Shia's like, hey, you want to like mess with the extras really quick? Like let's walk out of our schoolroom and have your arm all crazy, and like we'll act like it got broke, and I'll like scream that we need the hospital and stuff. And so we like did it and like freaked out like 30 extras who were supposed to be in the school at the time, and like they're all like, oh my gosh. And
that's
so
awesome. Shia is amazing.
Yeah, the producers caught wind and they're like, oh, we have to do this, and next thing I knew, it's written into an episode. So being able to do that, have that sort of bit of myself in a really iconic show is really cool.
Yeah, and Shia is amazing because you brought up Shia Lewis is just like
that character. Yeah. I mean, he was just he was such a genius with it at the time, because he barely had lines written for him. Most of the time, a lot of that stuff was improv. We get scripts and his stuff would be blank a lot of the times. For table reads, he'd just throw it out there and the writers would just go with it. So yeah, at the time he was really, I mean, I can't even imagine that kind of sort of comedy brain that he had, but it was up there. Elite.
Yeah, and they had a movie, and they're making, what I've heard, they're making live action Fairly OddParents TV series now when they have the movies.
Yeah, I did hear that is in the works, and I mean they had a Fairly OddParents live action movie already. That was sort of a TV movie.
There was 3.
But yeah, it was it's one of those things with Fairly Odd. I don't know how that works live action yet. That's one of the things with Clifford I get it a little bit more, because really you just have to worry about Clifford. Everything else can really be sort of finagled to be live action. But I think Fairly Odd is one of those things, like there's certain anime you just can't put that in a live action. There's certain things about this story that needs animation. It needs color. It needs brushstrokes on the screen. There's a difference, between us and the way that we can express things,
huge difference.
It's just unfortunate. But I think with CGI and the things that they're doing, and especially with like 3D animation, if it's some sort of blend with that, maybe we could see. But it's gonna be difficult and hard, but hopefully they're up to the challenge. We'll see.
They should have had They should have had Charlie come back to the new Clifford as an adult, so you could.
Oh my gosh,
that would have been
awesome.
I don't know if you guys saw, but Butch actually posted a "What if AJ and Chester were adults" not too long ago.
I did see
that. They kind of were, because
and drew a nice little cool thing.
They kind of were, because in the Channel Chaser movie, I remember there was adult AJ and Chester.
Oh, nice. Yeah. But the way he drew it, it was like, wow, that's actually how it would be. Like, I was like, wow. Yeah. I had to save the picture because I'm like, that's interesting to see how
we need to get Butch on, because he makes amazing stuff.
Yeah. And it's so funny too, because there's so many fan arts of Rocket Power for older. A lot of people are saying Rocket Power should be rebooted to be college age and stuff, and honestly that's probably the best idea I could think of as far as all of the sort of things that I've done that could possibly be rebooted. I think that Rocket Power is prime for the revival. X sports and stuff like that is not really as popular or as in the forefront as it was at the time. At the time we had Tony Hawk games that were taking over, and so now it's a nostalgic thing, it's a retro thing. But I think that if they did it right, and if they really sort of catered to that community would ride for it so hard that it would have no choice but to become popular. You know what I mean? So I think that that's really the cool way that they could go. But we'll see. I might have to just do it myself. We'll see.
You mentioned this.
Yeah, that's cool. I might have to go back and watch Rocket Power now, because it's been a little bit.
There was
Yeah,
Rocket Power
it's so
movie.
funny because there's so much discourse on whether it holds up or not. I think it does. I think it has its own thing. It's its own style. You know, it's much like Our Real Monsters. You know, where it's like
Our Monsters is amazing.
Yeah, and all those
Wasn't
shows
there
were at
one
like a
movie?
very like specific time.
Yeah.
you know?
Klasky is the producer of both Rocket Power, Monsters, Thornberries.
Rugrats.
They had a lock on that style and that sort of, you know, beat to a different drum type, you know, tone, you know, where it was like none of these shows are like anything else you've seen. Rugrats, I mean, look at it, you know.
Yeah, the crossover with them
that's also
and the
Klasky. So you can't duplicate Klasky Supo animation. It's just not possible.
I remember the third movie, Rugrats Go Wild, watching that in theater. And amazing. The crossover Wild Thornberries and Rugrats, that was just awesome.
Yeah, they were titans in the animation world, you know, at the time, and there's nothing that could be said about their run. It's possibly a lot of people talk about the Hanna-Barbera run, you know, to compare it, and I say that's the only thing that can really sort of, you know, top it and beat it. But when you really look at what Klasky did, I mean, it was not just television, it was everywhere, you know. We had so many elements of Klasky products and everything we did. I mean, there were Burger King and McDonald's toys that had Klasky stuff. I mean from plushes
Clifford
to
have those stuff like that
right
too.
At Wendy's.
Definitely.
And now Rugrats is back, which is awesome.
Right. And a different, but they use mostly the same cast, which is what I love about it. You know, a lot of people had a lot to say about the Powerpuff Girls, you know, and you know what they did. And you know, that's, you know, and it's, I feel like there's discussions on either side to be made for sure. But I feel like it's one of those things that I feel like you have to listen to the audience. If the audience says we want the originals, then I feel like you have to honor that, or you have to at least listen to that in some kind of way and have their input. And I think that the way that the original cast just didn't know anything about it, you know, kind of weird, but at the same time, a network has to do what they got to do, and that's what they felt was best. So we'll see. But the live action Powerpuff Girls has been
I have not seen that yet, but I've heard some things about it.
Well, you haven't seen it because they pulled the plug. They literally were about to release it, and then the network scrapped everything and like pulled the plug, and they said that they were going to reshoot everything, and so that's what they're doing now. So it's just so odd to have those things really sort of in the limelight and in the forefront. It's like, how do you expect people to really sort of want to watch it after all of these kinds of sort of weird delays and stuff happen? You know, it's kind of odd that it's all out there for everybody to see, but it's unfortunate in the social media age that we're in, you know, but that's what we have to do.
We know they brought Danny Phantom back in the new Brawl game. It'd be cool to see if they have brought the Rocket Power characters back in another game like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome, you know, and video games are such a space where it doesn't matter, you know, it's like they can come back at any time, you know. With Brawl, it's really cool because those kinds of games afford so many opportunities with crossover type stuff. And, you know, we see it even in, I think like Genshin Impact, you know, and crossing over with characters from Sony, you know, and stuff like that. There's so many opportunities for, you know, especially major properties that are really sort of retro like that, where you have that sort of iconic image and you just tie it to something that it has to deal with. So in my eyes, you know, the next sort of awesome skate game, you know, I feel like you should have that sort of DLC where it's like, oh, download these animated characters or skins from Rocket Power. That would be so cool.
That would be awesome.
You know, that would be awesome.
And there was a Rocket Power movie, if I'm right.
Yes, we did do a film. I believe it was called Escape or Race to New Zealand. That's what it was. Race to New Zealand.
Yes. Yep.
Race to New Zealand. And awesome opportunity, you know, and we recorded that like any episode. So at the time it really didn't click. I'm like, oh, this is a film, because we were just in the booth for longer. You know, I'm a kid. I'm just like, I just show up. I don't care. But it was really awesome after, you know, and I have a huge movie size poster of Race to New Zealand in storage. So it's really cool and signed by everybody. So, you know, all that stuff, man, all those sort of merchandise and stuff that I have, I'm gonna have to start a gallery or or something, or have it in boxes and cases somewhere, because I have some really cool stuff. I mean, even from Rocket Power, we had bowling shirts made for us. I mean, random stuff like that. I've got a Fairly OddParents cash jacket, you know, really cool stuff. So
wow.
Yeah.
So before we go to the next question, I'm gonna say this couple things. Like one, it's so okay. Since we talk about the Rugrats, it's so crazy that I feel like sometimes the more years to come, the more like original kids shows will come back. Like for example, Blue's Clues and You happened.
Yeah.
For example,
and
it's really good.
And like we always say on the podcast, there aren't kid shows like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well,
Yeah. The sort of pull from that era is really cool. Because I feel like it just bridges the gap. You know, we look at Star Wars. You know, a lot of people feel like Star Wars is this new thing, but I'm like, no, you have to understand what Disney was doing. They were looking at something that was made in the 70s and finding out a way to bridge it, you know, years and years and decades later. You know, that's an impossible feat. And you know, say what you want about, you know, the last, you know, couple films and everything, but to at least have any sort of modicum of success with it is still insane. You know, it's just wild.
Yeah, and there's a new like a video game for it coming next year.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these sort of properties that come back, you know, especially the kids shows, I think that there's always going to be new kids.
Every single day.
There's no shortage of kids coming. So, you know, when it comes to that, if you bring it back and you do it right and it honors what happened, then I think that there's no way that you can really go wrong with kids shows, you know, coming back. Oh yeah, something to be said about, you know, maybe adult episodic dramas. You know, you don't want to, you know, keep rebooting, you know, a certain show or, you know, a certain property. But I think with kids shows, it's all about education and learning, right? So there's no real wrong way that you can sort of teach kids how to live life. You know what I mean? Once you get into the older ages of art and you start sort of seeing how art takes shape and it starts sort of reminiscing you about adult life and it's not teaching you anything anymore, it's relating to you, then you have to make the difference and make the judgment call. But I think as long as that sort of tone of children's shows is there, then reboot to your heart's content, because a new kid is going to find something valuable with it.
Talking about bring stuff back, they brought back the original like Scooby-Doo thing where they had guest stars for his new series, and it was actually good. I haven't seen any of it, but I know fans love it. Yeah,
I haven't seen anything of it either, but Scooby-Doo is one of those things that is always going to be a staple in my house. I was like, I just like throw it on just to clean the house or, you know, something like that to have on the background.
Heck, they have live action movies.
Oh yeah, plenty. I mean, that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize how deep, you know, the influence of Scooby-Doo runs, you know. And I mean, even in the horror community, it's so crazy, you know, like there are literal horror groups who really sort of idolize Scooby-Doo and what it does for horror and animation. And I didn't even know that until very recently. And just, you know, a lot of fans really respect that series and, you know, all that stuff. So it's really cool. And just think of the Halloween costumes that come from Scooby-Doo.
Oh my gosh!
Every year.
Talking about
that's influence, right? And that's cool too. You know, with the stuff I've done, you know, like Fairly OddParents. You know, every year I get, you know, fans that send me, you know, AJ, you know, costumes or stuff like that. Sam cosplays. Awesome. So it's really cool to have characters that I can have that with.
Yeah, talking about the first one was almost like R-rated Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty spooky and just creepy, you know, for an animation. It's like actually genuinely creepy. So I think that, like I said, the influence there was, animation doesn't have to be one thing. I mean, you look at when Scooby-Doo premiered and what it did, it's like people thought that animation just simply meant some wild and crazy stuff happening with, you know, some, you know, animation, you know, and that's it. It's got to be a kooky character. It's got to be, and don't get me wrong, Scooby-Doo had no shortage of that, but they're like, no, we can blend these genres. It doesn't have to be something that gives you one emotion all the time. We can scare you in this medium. We can make you laugh. We can inspire you. We can have you try to figure clues out, you know, all of those kinds of things like are very subtle nuances in writing and producing that they had to take chances on, you know, because I mean, you look at what was out at the time, you know, and it really didn't compare. There's really things that were just like I said, Hanna-Barbera just really had that sort of lock, you know, and so you look at something like Scooby-Doo and it's like, man, that was really unique, you know.
And they still do. Gray LeRoi is now voicing Daphne on.
There's nothing really you can say about Gray. It's just we're really one of those, you know, people that voiceover is indebted to her, and you know, it's just where would we be, to be honest?
Her
pre-summer
If they asked you to guest star on it, I don't know if it's come back with you too, but they gave a new Scooby-Doo series if they asked you to guest star on it.
Oh, of course. I mean, in a heartbeat.
Cool.
I mean, Scooby turned 50 last year, which is crazy.
Wow.
I mean, I've been a part of some really cool, iconic shows, but I mean, there's nothing that even touches Scooby-Doo, and that's crazy to say that nothing that even I've done can touch Scooby-Doo. And I think that when you look at shows like that, and over the years, the guest stars that they've had, I wouldn't find any one of them that probably would say they didn't feel privileged to be there. I mean, even Fairly OddParents, we've had guest stars and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. We're like, what do you mean? We love you. It's like, having Adam West on the show, it's like, what? You're right, Batman. Like, what are you talking about? This is cool. Like, what? Like, so you look at that, but people are fans of everything, and you look at shows and just, and that's what I mean about these kinds of shows. You really can't, there's nothing that can be said about their influence, and young, old, whatever you do, it doesn't matter. You can be a fan of it, and that's the cool part about them. So of course I do Scooby-Doo in a heartbeat. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I'm talking about the second one, which is Nerds Collide, but I told these guys, I remember going to Movie Guy, which is no longer in business, and renting the second one over and over again on DVD, aka Jimmy Power Hour 2.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have to get on my congruent Scooby-Doo movie thing. I want to watch them.
Oh, trust me, I have a lot of new scenes.
I want to go back and actually go through, and see how it changed, over the years.
A lot of them are on HBO Max now, and they had a puppet one, which is awesome.
Love HBO Max and what they're doing with animation right now. I mean, cool. I don't see anyone really touching that. It's talked about that Netflix is going to sort of reshape their animation studios, but I just find it hard to believe that, with HBO and what they're doing with the sort of the sectioning off, and it's almost like we have every flavor for everyone, and it's very inviting, and I think Netflix has the content, and they have obviously the resources, but it's going to be hard to top that sort of ease, the ease of access that HBO Max has done. Because I think now, I want to watch some anime. Now, instead of looking at my apps or whatever, I go to HBO Max and I just see what's on the Crunchyroll. Even though they don't have a great selection right now, I go there first. Why? Because it's just ease of access, because it's an app that I have just right there on my television. I can just check it, even if I feel like nothing's there. And I think that that's what Netflix is gonna have to do if they really want to, make some waves. But shout out to HBO Max for having
they have they have some Scooby shows and movies on there that I haven't seen.
So after talking about all this stuff you've done over the years, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of HBO Max, I just did Batman Long Halloween, and it released a couple of months ago on Blu-ray and DVD,
cool.
And it actually recently just dropped on HBO Max. So
awesome.
That is really cool to finally be, I've done voiceover for now 25 plus years, and I'm getting into the DC universe. It's really cool, and I'm actually, canon. This is something that actually is, to be taken. It's not, something that's sort of a one-off thing. This is something that's included in, the Batman universe. And it's just really cool to kind of be included in that, it's just even in a small way. I play Lieutenant Pierce, who is a new character that fights alongside Gordon and Batman through the night, just helps them out. But it's really cool to just say I'm in a Batman movie, it's dope. So that's really what's there now. I also have a TV show miniseries named Trace, which is on Amazon, that you can download for purchase. Really cool. It's about a real series of murders in San Francisco with a serial killer named the Doodler. It's really cool just to play a role that's a lot more serious and a lot more just sort of out there in left field than I've ever done. I'm writing and producing and trying to do that, and make my space there as well. I have a couple of animated things that I'm trying to, in the pre-production stages of right now. And it's really a journey that I've just been trying to sort of navigate and just see where it's taken me. And my art, I'm painting now. Just sort of the pandemic, I picked up a new hobby. So I am, working on having a gallery and all those kinds of things for that. And that took off. I actually got a designer in London who caught wind of my art, and we ended up having a collaboration, and we did a clothing line, a limited clothing line that had jackets that featured my art. And that was really awesome to have that happen last year and release those. So again, just, you know, one of those things that I have just been really afforded to have the ability to just have my passions just bleed out in all kind of possible ways. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, I guess.
That's very awesome. So okay, so I'll just say this. So because we're talking about the Scooby-Doo that turned 50 years, it's very amazing. That's crazy that Scooby-Doo been like for so many years, and same 50. As for Sesame Street, because Sesame Street is over 50 years too.
Yes,
way older. Sesame Street is crazy. I actually worked on Sesame Street when I was younger.
Oh my gosh, and that's awesome.
And yeah, and it's one of those things that like you said, you look back and you're like, that's still on. You're like, wait, what? But again, you know, when you look back at the actual, you know, purpose of these shows, it's to teach and educate children.
And have fun.
And you look at the ones that did it best are the ones that are on the longest. And Sesame Street is the king of early development education for children. It's the granddaddy of them all. I think that the only ones that you have that might not be that, you know, sort of box with it are shows like that aren't on anymore, like Mr. Rogers or, you know, things like that have that same level of influence. But, you know, Sesame Street has withstood this, the sands of time, really. And even through things like controversy and things like, you know, people saying that it's not good for children and it's not, you know, but you look at the core values and you look at people who take control of these shows, you know, over the years, and they really they have it. They really do have children's best interests at heart most of the time. And I think that's why that they've stayed on this long.
And also that, like, I'll just say this as well, that to be honest, Charlie, for me, Charlie is probably one of my favorite kids of the OG Clifford show, and awesome. He's cool. And I'm honestly, to be honest, I think you did a great job as
you did do a good job.
Yes, you did.
Thank you so much. And it is weird too, because with Charlie, I really had to sort of represent a community that I really did not have any, you know, sort of inclusion in, you know, and to play Jamaican at the time. You know, for me, I talked to TC a lot about it. I worked with TC Carson on that show. And so TC is very infused in Jamaican culture. And if I'm not mistaken, it is part of his lineage. So it's one of those things that it's really cool to look back and have people say, I felt represented, you know, like I looked at the show, and normally a show that really wouldn't have me in mind, I saw my family, you know, to see Charlie and his dad so heavily in the show. You think about little boys and girls who are like, wow, that looks like my family, you know, and that's so cool to have that, especially in a show like Clifford, where you have so many things that kids should be happy about. You know, there's this group of dogs talking, like every kid should experience that. Every kid should experience Clifford. It's one of those things that, you know, I want to, you know, introduce to my children. At one point, you can tell me you don't like it, but I'm definitely going to introduce you to it so that I can find that out, you know, and because I think it's such a great children's property. Whether it be in print or whether it be on screen, you know. And so Scholastic, I think, is the owner for it for print, and they did a fantastic job at being, you know, pushing it to children and making sure it was something that they could watch. So I definitely love that aspect for sure.
And I'm glad when they decided to like reboot Clifford that it was on PBS Kids, because that was like the home for Clifford, like back then, all those years ago.
Definitely. Exactly. You know, and it's important that it keeps that sort of what do you call it? That sort of, ability to stay the same, you know, and have people go to the same network. And that's what I say about Sesame Street. You know, it's like, it has a home, you know, and shows that Nickelodeon have, you know, that's why these networks have created
Nick Jr.
name. Yeah, Nick Jr. or whatever. Sprout.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, when you want to go and you can go to Nick Jr. and you can see shows all day that will educate and encourage your children to do what they do. And I think that's really cool to have. Yeah.
Way
Yeah.
before the live action movie came out, or before it comes out, there was a live action Clifford and Wyatt. It was somebody. It was Clifford Sing Along Adventure. It was somebody in Clifford too, and it was pretty awesome. It's on YouTube.
I gotta watch it. No, yeah. You definitely have like all the hidden gems.
Yeah.
I know. Do you ever go back and rewatch your old stuff, like Fairly OddParents, Rocket Power,
Or even
Stevens?
Yeah.
I watched Fairly OddParents for sure. I think Fairly
Yeah.
OddParents is one of those things you can't get away from just because it is so funny. And it's like, you know, when you want to watch something and laugh and it's animated, it's hard to stay away from it.
Yeah, Jason
really,
Marsden.
yeah. And so, Jason, that's my guy, man.
Jason, who voices Max Goof, is amazing.
Yeah, I've worked several times with Jason, and so you know, for me and him to sort of meet, and we both replaced you know, actors on that show.
Yeah.
So that is an insane chance to have someone that you know you've worked with, and to come in and both of you replace someone and get to work for years and years and years. And I mean, yeah, like I said, I've learned so much from him, and you know, to be a part before I ever, you know, did voiceover. Goofy Movie was my favorite Disney film, my favorite Disney animated film.
Awesome.
And I knew every single word, and you know, to meet Jason and to now be friends with him is just so awesome, and to learn from him. I worked with him for 16 years, you know, and so
it feels surreal almost.
Yeah, it feels awesome.
You can't
especially
you can't get away from that.
Especially if how much you've been like for be part of TV shows, animation, movies, so much. They just don't even know what to say or what you're part of. They just like mind blown of how much you're part of what you're blessed to be as a person yourself.
Man, I look at everything that I have been you know, included in, even something like Fallout 4. You know, I didn't even know I was working on Fallout 4 until I got in the booth. You know, I just knew that it was they literally kept it top secret, and you know, I'm just auditioning for characters, and so my agent called me, hey, you booked this project, still don't know what it is, but you know, blah blah blah, this is the date, da, da, da. And so when I show up there, and you know, we sit down and we talk before I go in the booth, and they told me, you know, again, as a gamer, you're like, what? You know, and you know, to be a part of that, and then to have my peers, my people who you know, acting is really cool, and it's a passion of mine, but at the end of the day, it's my job, you know. So I do work, you know, and after work I have things that I do to not be working, and it's my hobby. And gaming is a hobby. Gaming is something I do as a release. I have friends that I've met online gaming, you know, and that I work, you know, I game with every day, that now I've met in person, that now is a part of my life, you know. So with that, you know, you look at Fallout 4 and you look at something that you've worked on, and you look at people that you've met along the way and how they're like, my God, like my friend is in Fallout 4, and you're like, crap, like, you know, it really does blow your mind. It makes you feel amazing. And, you know, to have something that the gaming community, you know, I had people cosplay, you know, as characters, you know, it's just, you can't, you know, you look at that, and you look at cons, and you look at stuff like that, and it's just really cool to look across the sea of people that you've somehow affected in some kind of way with those kind of properties. And it just doesn't get any better than that. That's why I do what I do.
It's kind of funny because in Fallout 76, it actually has my hometown in it, which is awesome.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, the Mothman.
That's awesome.
The Mothman thing is real. I don't like one of those urban legends. Like, listen, I believe you. That definitely is really cool. I think that Fallout is they're gearing up for a new game. Are they not? Didn't they just announce something? Yeah, they might have.
I think they might have. Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Is there anything around you, basically like Clifford or even Stevens or something? Is there anything you want to show that?
Is there anything you want to show us?
Basically, anything, for example, those two.
Yeah, Jake and Chris have their
plush. Oh, like man, I most of my stuff is in storage, but I know I have my cash jacket here in the closet. So this is my Fairly OddParents cash jacket.
Oh my God,
awesome.
That's awesome.
It's the Fairly OddParents insignia, and it's got that on the back.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Susan Blakely on the back.
Yeah, and that's
awesome.
Again, that's just one of those things. And man, let me see if I still have this bowling shirt. It's possible I do. Possible. That might be it. Sorry, guys.
It's
No
fine.
worries.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, I might have switched that one to storage, but
That's okay. But yeah, the Fairly OddParents jacket's cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
you were
definitely
talking
did
about
have
Jason
that.
Marsden. You were talking about Jason Marsden. We might try to get him on.
Yeah, I think
Oh.
the moment you guys do, let me know, or if you guys can, because I'll definitely hit him up and tell him you guys are awesome.
Yeah,
But yeah,
thank you.
You're awesome.
I
Thank you so much.
I have like one of those man. Oh, actually, this is from not an animated property, but this actually is a very cool bit. It's on my wall. It's a little disheveled because I don't like to restore things. I think that things age.
Yeah.
I think that they should the age should show, and
I
you should keep it as is. My first film was a kid's film by the name of Slappy and the Stinkers, and it's like a cult classic. It was made, and it is sort of a mesh between Little Rascals, and it has a sea lion in it. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but again, so it's one of those cult classic films. B.D. Wong, Bronson Pinchot, if you remember Perfect Strangers, the show that was on in the 80s. The guy, he was in it. So this is a storyboard. This is a storyboard for before I even was attached to the project. This is a storyboard they have, just sort of detailing the one of the frames of the kids dancing at a party, and so that's my character Domino, as you can see at the top. So it was just really cool. They gave me this after the film released, just as a commemorative thing, to say thank you and all that. And it's just really cool to have that little bit, and seeing the creators and how they really thought of the scene, and seeing their writing and their notes and stuff. It's just really cool to have stuff like that, because it just is a part of the history of the things that I've worked on, and just that little bit of the process. I think people always see the end result, right? And we're like, man, it must have been so cool, but a lot of times the things in the process are so awesome and so beautiful. And I mean, if you guys could see, Butch will literally be recording us and drawing future episode. He's like talking to us, and like you'll look at his script, and it's got like the most amazing doodles on it, and you're like, what are you? He's like, oh yeah, I think this is gonna be the next
he shows
episode.
stuff on his YouTube. We need to get him on.
Yes,
he's great.
That'd be the best episode.
Awesome.
Because me and Chris are a huge Danny fan of fans.
Yes, and Fairly OddParents too, of course. Yeah, both shows are.
And he also did Tough Puppy.
Well, okay, that's a good show. Tough Puppy.
Yes, I remember Tough Puppy.
Me too, Chris. So, the last questions I want to point out something like, since after you've been shows like an NBC, like Cosby Show, I think that's the first show you ever part of, right?
Yeah,
correct.
And been Nickelodeon, PBS Kids show, and I think, what was your feeling about like where you the first show you're part of was on NBC, and then more later to come you were on Nickelodeon, everything, and the support that
I've had
from there. What was your thoughts from there?
Man, I mean, I'm so privileged. I talk about this all the time, and it is really a cultural thing, because especially at the time, Black boys that looked like me really weren't on television. It was very, very rare to have, a kid who was able to say lines. At 3.5, I was doing full-on episodes, with Bill and Felicia Rashad and everything, and it's just unheard of, and that's why shows like that became so popular, because it showed people like me in that light. And so I think that it was just really cool to be a part of something that was on a major network that people could look at and say, wow, I see my family, wow, I see this, it's really dope. And then, like you said, to sort of be a part of stuff later on in life that as a kid, I was like, whoa, and it's weird because like those things flipped. So as a kid, I'm working on all the adult networks that as an adult, I'm like, man, that was cool. But then as a kid, as an adult, I worked on all the kid networks that like, I was like, man, if I was a kid, I'd be like, that was cool. So I sort of flipped, because when I was younger, I did NBC, CBS. I was on almost every major network. Before I turned the age of 6, I had done Family Matters, Living Single,
really have experience.
Fresh Prince,
oh
and
yes,
The Cosby Show.
Family Matters, yes.
So like literally to have almost every major Black sitcom under my belt before I turned 6 years old.
Right.
Like, that's pretty insane. So now looking back, I'm like, man, that's cool. And then like now, as I work on stuff like Nickelodeon and as I work on stuff like Fallout 4, I'm like, man, as a kid, I would have been like through the roof. So every network and every sort of major distributor that I've worked on has been sort of a reality check. You know, it's one of those things that you sort of take to heart, and it's like, man, I'm working for a company that has had such an influence in the game, and I try to rise to the occasion. And I think it's sort of a testament to my work that Nickelodeon kept asking me back. You know what I mean? I've done multiple things for them, and to have a company honor me, I was honored by Nickelodeon last year for Black History Month. You know, and to say like,
awesome.
To say that I was included with Cree and with Phil Lamar and Kevin Michael Richardson, it's like, wow, my name is with those guys, you know. And it's really cool to have. And again, those networks are, again, special place. Cartoon Network, even I did Whatever Happened to Robot Jones for Cartoon Network, and they're just amazing staple in anime and late animation, as a lot of people say. You know, that stuff is just really cool. A lot of people look at Cartoon Network and for what they've done to the game, and it's like, I'm a part of that, you know. So yeah, networks and all of that aside, it's I always take every day as it's new, you know. Every new job is exactly that, a new opportunity to just do things, you know.
You mentioned Kevin Michael Richardson. I didn't mention this yet, but we hope to get him on in the future, but we might not be able to contact him.
Big teddy bear man. That's what I call him, teddy bear.
He doesn't have social media or anything. No, but what me and Chris
so
know,
low key, and that's why he's called teddy bear, because he's literally, he has this booming voice, right? Everything he does, it's just, but he is the most soft-spoken guy. Like, he's huge. He's a huge guy. Like, he's so tall, and he's just such an imposing guy. And then he talks, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh,
we need to get him on."
You know, and he's so nice, and but he's such a cool guy. He's another person that I've learned so much from, even indirectly. You know, just
that's amazing.
Maybe you can help us get him on here if you're up for it.
That would be really
because he doesn't have social media or anything. I don't think
he doesn't. He stays super low key.
He's what me and Chris know him the most from is from Lilo and Stitch's Captain Gantu. He voiced Captain Gantu, which Chris and I are big Lilo and Stitch.
From Lilo and Stitch,
And he can still do the voice.
I mean, if you see, I'm a huge Lilo
Oh my gosh, yes. I think I might have that Stitch plush. I think I might have that exact one, actually.
Chris will go get it now.
There you go, Chris.
There you go. So no,
they're making a live action, I believe.
Yes,
I do think
that's what I remember.
We need him to return as Gantu.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I can see him running around doing it.
I don't think he would. I don't think he's so. I don't think that would be something he would want to do, but that would be awesome if he did.
Sure.
Is there any advice you want to give, or you can give to anybody who wants to get into this stuff?
Yeah, like into voice acting or acting in general.
I would say I'm going to give two separate answers, honestly, because, and I give you a reason why. Voiceover in the most recent years, I'd say the last 5 years, has changed exponentially. Social media has flipped so many things on its head, just as far as how you approach things, how things end up, you know, the end results, who can participate, who's creating. Things have just opened, things have changed. For the regular acting or just general acting, I think the biggest piece of advice is that it is not a sprint. It is a marathon. And to have the mindset that this is a job. It is a passion. It is something that you should feel happy doing, but at the same time, do not treat it as if it's a get rich quick passion, or I'm going to do this and instantly hit here. Most of the faces that you've seen that are making the money that you say is, oh my gosh, that's money that I could never dream of, have had 20 plus years of times where they had no idea where their next meal was coming from. And almost every single one that I've come into, and I've been in the game 30 plus years now. So for me to never run into an actor that never had a horror story, like every single person that I've talked to has had that struggle. So really new actors have to get in their mind that your talent is going to speak for you. If you make it quick and you hit it, that means that there's something in you that allowed that. And great, take advantage of that. And it's not to say that if you're struggling, you're not talented, but what it means is that you can get lucky. But everybody, talented or not, is going to have to work at some point. So that's really my biggest advice for general acting, but voiceover is specific. For voiceover now, especially because of social media, use it to your advantage. Don't feel like you have to hold a certain persona on social media. Don't feel like you are restricted and have to be professional. If you don't put yourself out there as a person, the projects that are looking for that type of person are never going to find you. I tell people all the time, there's so many independent video games. There's so many independent comics that are looking to do audiobooks. There's so many different ways for you to become a part of voiceover now that you really just have to put yourself out there and let it find you. And stop this, professional VO thing. Like, TikTok and all that stuff will give you an image of what this is. And you have to go deeper than that. You have to really talk to people who are doing this every single day. And that's one of the biggest things that I took in my coaching. I was really against acting classes for years. I've never taken a formal acting class in my life. I have always been a person who says coaching is the way to go. Yes, I know that it's important to be educated in your craft. I'm not saying that. Yes, go to school for acting. Yeah, go to school. But to me, an acting class tends to group a lot of people together, and it teaches them a curriculum, and then it sort of pushes them out and says, okay, have at it. And then when you go on an audition, now you have 25 plus people that you were in that class with that are doing the same exact techniques as you. How are you going to stand out? So for me, individual coaching is the way to go. If you get a coach, that person is going to coach you attuned to your ability, attuned to where you're at, in your journey. And I always tell people that's the way to go. So now, me sort of giving back to the community, I've started coaching. I teach with Giovanni Samuel's acting workshops, which is GS Acting Workshops across all social media. And I coach. Yes, I coach voiceover. And for me, that's really what it's about, is put yourself out there and get a coach and really just take advantage of every single medium. A lot of people think voiceover and they think animation and maybe video games, but voiceover is in almost everything in the world. Like, you think about, you sign on to a YouTube video, most of the time your ad features a voiceover artist. Think about how many ads you see per day. Most of the time, think about when you walk into an airport or a major public place that has a voiceover.
School for announcer.
A school, those are voiceover recorded. Disneyland, those are voiceover. I did the voice for the High School Musical parade that happened in Disneyland here for years.
That's cool.
That is awesome.
And you never think of those things.
You definitely worked with two of our previous guests, Calvin Western and Monique.
Sweet. Yeah. I that's one of the things that I always encourage people. It's in everything we do. So there's so many things that you can be a part of with voiceover. Find your niche and just really just attack it. And there's nothing that you can sort of pigeonhole yourself off to if you just put yourself out there. It's gonna come.
Yes.
Would you like to say anything to the people who's the fans?
Man, thank you
for our parents and Clifford and
anything.
So
Really,
much shows.
Man,
more shows than that, just those three.
Exactly. And honestly, and you said it, it's really, thank you, because I've been able to still be acting. And you look at people who have careers, especially people who started with me. A lot of people who started with me aren't still acting. And again, that's no dig to them. That is simply me stating that I'm lucky. I'm so thankful for the fact that I've been able to work every year of my life for the past 30 plus years and not have to, really sort of redirect myself and be able to still attack my passion. You guys watching me in those shows is what did that. And being able to say, when I got posted for Black History Month, I had it was like 50,000 like retweets and likes and then when I posted my 30-year anniversary. I posted my 30-year anniversary not too long. I think a couple of months ago, and that got about the same amount. And to have so many people say, wow, we watched you. Wow, thank you so much. And my friends, I have friends that I've made that are like, yeah, I mean, when I was younger, before I knew you, I watched you. And to have people say, before I knew you, I knew you. A lot of people say that to me, and it means so much. And keep doing it, because I want to keep going. Just like those shows that keep going for kids, I want to keep educating,
just like we're
and
doing.
being a source of you guys' entertainment, and and reckoning. Most of the latest projects that I've done, I've done a lot of projects recently for the LGBT community, and that featured that. And I get people that come to me all the time and say, I've gotten people that say I've saved their life. People say I didn't think that I was going to make it, and I watched roles that showed me that I mattered, and thank you. And that, just to be an actor and to have that's exactly why I do it. I could literally make not another penny, and I'm gonna want to act every day just because of that. So
please do boss. You're welcome.
Thank you guys. It's you. And honestly, and I do want to say this. I appreciate fans that have given back. You guys are fans that are giving back and sharing your experiences and sharing your stories and sharing how you feel about these properties. You guys are so important. You guys are like, you don't know how important you are, because you bridge the gap. You do what studios can't. You guys tell people who aren't, there are people who may not have television, you know what I mean? And can't afford that, but they have an iPod and they have podcasts on their iPod.
Exactly.
And, and that stuff really, really matters. And I want you guys to honestly just keep going and growing and thinking of ways to
definitely,
reach people. Because like I said, it matters. And when you have good content, and especially where you guys have a show like you, where you simply just shine light on old things, you guys aren't really having, opinionated arguments about stuff. You guys are just really having fun, looking back on the past and calling things to light, and just having fun watching this stuff. And that's so important, so good, especially in the time that we're in with the pandemic. How everybody just really had to take a step back and look, and you guys did that, and you guys put your spin on it, and congrats, and keep going, man, for sure.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for your words.
Of course.
Jake, go ahead and ask the next one.
Well, so how can people find you on social media?
Well, I am on almost everything at Gary L. Gray. So that's GARY LGRAY. So it's the same letters, just flipped around. And it's
everything on your social media will be in the description.
Everything is in the description.
Just perfect. And that's Instagram and Twitter, which I am the most active on. Twitter especially. You can most of the time hear me. I run my own Twitter. Much to the dismay of my agents and but I feel like with things that I feel passionate about, and things that I use as a means of release, that's things that I want to feel connected with my fans on. So when it comes to gaming, when it comes to Twitter, I love to, I want you guys to talk to me. I never turn people away when it comes to gaming. People always like, what's your gamer tag? I'm like, yeah, we can play. I don't care. So I'm the same way with Twitter. You can hit me up, you can message me. I mean, that's how you guys contact me.
Right. Yeah.
So as you can see, I respond. So for me, it's really just about connecting with people. So, hit me up on there. We'll chop it up.
Would you come back?
Of course.
You and Jason together.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Or someone else from even Stevens, like Christy or something.
Yeah, or even someone from Clifford too.
That would be really dope. Yeah. That would be really dope. Yeah, Kel, I know Kel Mitchell.
We need Kel on here.
He's really cool. He's a really good guy. He doesn't live in LA anymore with me, but I'm pretty sure he'd be wanting to join up. So yeah, I definitely would. And seeing you guys' praises, we'll definitely blast it out there and make sure that everybody knows.
You can help us get Kel Mitchell if you want. You can help us get guests if you want. We have somebody from previous episodes helping us.
So yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely would. And like I said, when you guys have like any kind of thing, a specific topic that you guys, want to talk about that you feel like I'd be, particularly, good to talk with on, just let me know. Like I said, I'm a gamer. So, for me, I'm ready to be down to always talk about things gaming. And I'm a big tech guy, so I love stuff like that too. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have shows talking about that, but yeah.
No, but we do now.
And I'm a big
That's the next
consumer.
podcast. I'm just kidding.
Right, there you go. I'm a big consumer though, so I watch just as much as I participate in, if not more. Yeah. So, when you guys are talking about certain things, I'm a huge consumer. I'm a Netflix binger. I do that too. So I literally, it doesn't matter. Netflix
is amazing. Tim has to say plus so much too. Really?
Oh yeah, I mean I've got all of them pretty much. The only one I don't really do is Hulu, but I think everything else I'm a consumer,
Understandable.
man.
I believe
I
that.
love
Yeah,
to
me
indulge
too.
in my art. You know, I think
Yeah,
that's
cool.
important.
I don't have
Awesome.
Peacock. I don't think
Awesome.
that's the other thing.
Yeah. No, man, you guys are great. Make sure you guys let me know, when everything drops for sure.
Yep.
First of all, you know.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. We will.
thank you so much for
coming
being a part of the show. It's been an honor.
And
No, man, like I said, you guys
same
are
as what
awesome.
Chris said.
Yeah, once he sent me the message saying like you want to do the podcast, oh my gosh.
And
Awesome.
If we get Jeffrey Garcia on, I think somebody needs to something in front of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and also one more thing actually. So since we talk about, well, okay, I know I said that so much about this, but since we talk about like about the reboot Clifford, somehow just in case in the future, which I'm most likely not going to happen for me personally, but just in case if it's going to happen, if the any OG Clifford kids are going to be be in the cameo or for the future films for Clifford, would you be down to be adult version of Charlie?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, live action. If it's, or are you saying live action or animation?
In general.
Either.
In general.
Live action, probably not. But VO, yes. And I tell you the reason why. And that's strictly off of representation. Because if I'm playing a Jamaican boy, or even older, as at that point, I think that there are actors that can better represent that visually than I can. And so I think that would be important to find someone that's, really puts that on screen for people who are in that community. Voiceover, is different. And so I think that's one of those things that if I can, really immerse myself and, find the right script. And yeah, I think that that's definitely open for discussion. I definitely would.
Yeah, and same with even Stevens. Like, would you be down for that if that were to like get a reboot?
Wow. And even Stevens reboot would be interesting.
I said to my question. I said that question now, Chris.
Yeah, even Stevens reboot would be interesting. I don't know. Even Stevens, I think there are certain things that I would not want. And like I said, it's easier to say I want to bring back Clifford in some kind of way because it has that tone. It's that educational tone for children, right? Or even
it's still around.
It's not be for children. Right. It might not be for children, but it's at least for a younger audience. And so in this mode with Even Stevens, if Even Stevens was rebooted for all the same characters to be older, I would think that the audience would be a little older. So I think that it would probably read more like a Degrassi type. And in that case, then I probably wouldn't, because I think that Even Stevens is supposed to exist in that bubble. It's supposed to exist in that sort of early preteen angst, not knowing what we're doing, bubble. And I think that once you go beyond that, it loses what its heart is. I think Even Stevens was really about those early teenage years in a family, in a crazy situation. And you can't really alter that. It becomes something different at that point.
Right.
And so I think that that's one of those things that I would say, I think that one should be left alone. I think that there are things that are stronger that are left by themselves than to reboot and to show to another generation and or audience. I think there are some things that stand that sort of, that test of time where you could be like, no, this can sort of in any facet. Put it this way. Why do you think that they haven't rebooted the X-Men cartoon?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said that, Spider-Man has been, sort of rehashed plenty of times. You've got even a new DuckTales. You've got DuckTales.
DuckTales.
Everything under the sun.
Especially the theme song.
But that X-Men cartoon, I tell people, a lot of people always put Spider-Man above that one, and I'm like, no. When you really look back and see what that X-Men cartoon did, it's just no duplicating it. And there's a reason why that has to stay that way. Gargoyles, same thing. There's a reason why it has to stay that way. It was made at a time where it was perfect, and there's no way that you could duplicate that right now. And it's stronger staying that way.
Teacher's Pet is another one.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, again, thank you. It's been a blast.
You put a good word with us for Christy.
Awesome.
You said something about talking to her, so maybe help us get her on here.
Oh, you said Christy? Oh, yeah. I just
that'd be awesome.
Recently had a conversation with her.
And she I will definitely.
Yeah, I definitely will put it in her ear when we talk about being on her show. I'll definitely let her know for sure. Like I said, the best thing is just, once it happens and once it drops, it's always my peers and the people that I work with. I always, anytime that, because a lot of voiceover people don't do podcasts anymore. But people, a lot of the actors
doing podcasts now. He has a lot of.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's gonna be more podcasts more down the line. Right?
A lot of actors though that I work with will, a lot of times when I finish something, I'll just say, "Oh, I just did such and such," and they're really cool if if you're looking for a podcast to do or something. So this is definitely a time where I will, be able to suggest stuff to people. So yeah, like I said, just keep in contact and whatever I can, we'll set. One of these days we got to figure out how to mesh our two podcasts. I have a podcast called Live from the Couch that we just talk, basically
there you go.
Shoot stuff on. So
could probably good work on there.
Yeah.
Voices like Cooper, I believe, has one called Gamerland or something like that.
So, if we can mesh those two, that would be cool, and we can work on something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, from what Chris said to me, and from three of us, thank you so much for being on our show, and for the future that you can be on the back, like we said about that. And also, you're a great guy that we have on our show. So thank you so much.
You are.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
You
guys are awesome.
Worth it, which is the message from
it. Yep. Keep on good work on what you're doing, and can't wait what next for the future, or what like your podcast and everything. What's going on?
I can't wait to be back, and like I said, we can talk about whatever's new and whatever else you guys got.
Definitely. Definitely.
That's awesome.
And from all of us, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support. And like I said, like every single episode, see you on the next episode, and hope you all enjoyed.
And for me, you are worth it.
Yeah.
And catch y'all for the next episode. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
See you next time on another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Be sure to follow us on social media and stream us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Bye-bye.